You know that's what they do. Oh, we were on a shoot set the other day. Every between all the sets.
Oh, two?
Well,
Why do
I
they
don't know.
double clap? I thought it was one just little like.
It could be one, but it's
Okay.
it's to get all the with the multiple cameras to get all the audio lined up across cameras. We should cut this because if someone's listening and we're clapping in their ear, they're gonna be pissed.
Okay, we'll start back over again.
No, stop. Just
That was for you. That was for us.
it's okay. We never actually.
I'm clipping this.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Andrea, yeah, it's nice to see you, and the fact that you're here today, you made it.
You made it. I know. I was just filming a little reel for Lauren and Amanda for Woodshop Social. They typically come with us, and it's a snow day today.
Today is January 17th. As we walked over here, there is drove,
7?
Yeah.
8? Yeah. It's funny because you yesterday...
Inches of snow.
Inches
7,
of
8
snow. Oh, yeah. Inches of snow.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah. 7 and 8 inches. Tony yesterday goes... Hey everyone, we're closing the office. It's supposed to be really crazy tomorrow. So everyone's working from home today. And I woke up and I was like, there's no snow. And sure enough, it just was a little delayed. The snow has come and thank goodness the team is home. And thank goodness we have the ability to work from home. It's great. A little reshuffling and organizing.
It was bound to happen. It was, just a couple inches in the morning. It's like, okay, it's fine to get into the office, but it's gonna be a shit show when we go home.
Especially you, Jasmine, Quail are out in South, and then
boonies.
Merle and JD on the South Hill.
The hill, yeah.
I saw so many people stuck on the hill earlier today. It's been funny and scary.
I love watching the videos online.
They're just, it's like, what the hell are you thinking?
There's this one, the bus is coming down a hill, but he's going sideways.
Terrifying.
And it's like Tony Hawk, moves sliding down the road, like he's doing a flip grind or something. I don't know.
Well, in Portland, my best friend Laura, she's on the morning show down there. They've had the ice storm. She's recording. She posted on her Instagram, literally on her kitchen island. She had a board, a mic, a whole
she's from home
because they there's no power down there. Rigs are frozen over. It's crazy. Winter has arrived in January. Speaking of January. Hello, 2024.
Oh yeah, it is.
First podcast of the year.
Welcome to the new year. I've managed this record. I've shared this a couple times with a few people. I have still not inadvertently written 2023 in my notebook. Every time I date
great.
something or I sign checks. As a joke, what's a check?
Have you written 2025? Because I have.
No.
Oh,
No.
yeah, because we
Who
were
does that?
we were so far in planning 2024 that I was like, oh, it's the new year, it's 2025.
Please
Yeah.
don't do that to me. We spent
I
so
know.
much time working ahead, but you're right. It's
I'm like, what year is it?
we've been talking about.
We've been in 24 for 6 months. Let's be real. We've been working in 24 for 6 months.
Well, it's good to be here into the new year. We missed, I don't know if we missed one. No, not last time, but I have been getting poked by a couple people saying, hey, we need more episodes.
Yeah.
So, about that.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
We'll get more episodes.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I know I have February scheduled. I don't think Brennan had his calendar open when I looked less for March.
We'll have
but
words
maybe that
with
was
him.
in January. We will have words with
Yeah,
him.
later. But before we beat him up, our guest today is the esteemed, I'm excited about this one, owner and operator of this very studio, Spokast Studios, Brennon Poynor. Hey, Brennon.
Brennan!
Hello, how's it going? It's great to be here in my studio.
Did you press record? Because I realize you're not in your normal seat right now.
I hope so. I think so. I'm pretty sure I pressed record. If not, the backup's going, so we're good.
Okay, good.
But yeah, no, it's when you text me that I was going to be the guest, I was like, I don't get to be guest on podcasts very often. I'm always recording podcasts or I'm doing my own podcast, but I'm never the guest on podcasts.
Guest of another.
So,
well, we talked about it a while ago when I brought it up because, the idea here was about marketing and partners and vendors. And oddly enough, you fit a lot of those
All three of them.
different hats. Yeah. So official title, like we said, owner operator here of Spokast Studios. But how is it that Abby describes you at a party?
Oh, I love this.
Oh well, if you would have made it to my roast,
Sick burn.
I was there.
you would have heard what she had to say, but I will keep that there because it was very rated X.
Yeah.
But I think Abby would describe me as an affable like podcaster that I mean this is who I am. I literally am a caricature of myself. Of some like when I was getting roasted at my birthday, like everyone basically said like you are a caricature of someone who's trying to be a podcaster, and I feel like that's who I am. But she would also say I'm very loving, very community focused, and that I probably don't spend enough time at home.
I did like when I think it was you said that you're the trophy husband.
That's a good point. I like that.
I think that's
That's what I said, actually.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah, you were like, I'm the trophy husband, the hot trophy husband. And I was like, yes, that's amazing.
But she would. I would hope she'd have nice things to say about me. If I explained her to anyone, I would probably just tell people that she does OnlyFans because she's an accountant. So
that's amazing.
But no, it's but she's amazing. She's like, I wouldn't be where I am without my wife, and she knows that.
Well, that's awesome, and I think that it's awesome that you say that because your journey across design and marketing and entrepreneurship, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You really have touched a lot of the things that with this show we're super interested in digging into. And not only that, you've been either an arm's length away from the Woodshop the whole time or right there with us. So it's kind of a fun way that all came together. But what's the background? How did you get started on this marketing then into podcasting path? Like,
it all starts with
This is a great story.
It's such a layered story. There's so many things that happened to get where I am today. And it starts with my twins being born.
I'm going to back you up.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to go back even further.
Okay.
What'd you study in school?
I studied graphic design. I went to Spokane Falls Community College. I graduated there in 2009 with a AAS in web design and graphic design.
Awesome.
And that's where my basis started. And then I started doing in-house marketing for companies in North Idaho. And that's how we met.
Yep.
Yeah, we met at Alligator Performance.
That's right.
You were my radio rep. I bought radio spots on Rock 94.5. And that's how we became friends. And then, but even before that, I was listening to podcasts. Like I was listening to podcasts all the time. Like back in 2008, like I was listening to Adam Carolla, WTF with Mark Maron. Like I would listen to those when I was working on the golf course, and there was just a lot of time spent listening to podcasts. So
When there was only like 6 podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah. Back when like Apple was like promoting, like listen to podcasts, and like it's like radio, but longer and different. I don't like, it was like, I remember them promoting it and it just never really made much sense to the every person, but like to me it was like this sounds like fun.
It really didn't make a lot of sense because like news podcasts are extremely popular, and to think back then, like why would I want to listen to old news?
That's so true,
right? Like
Yeah.
it's recorded. That mean it happened already,
right?
So
Because you value that speaker's opinion and insight on the news topic.
we get that now, but back
Yeah.
then, like
I was like,
Yeah.
no, that's still why.
but nobody
People
thought like that
listen.
before.
Absolutely. I'm going to argue with you on that
Crazy.
one.
But so Brennan, design. Design was the start of it.
Yeah.
And then as you jumped into the workforce, you mentioned a couple businesses in North Idaho. Were either of those design works or the jobs, or was that more in the marketing realm?
So when I worked at Alligator Performance, I was hired there as a designer. Like I was designing banner ads, static banner ads for their website. This is 2009, 2010, I think. And that's what I was mostly doing. I was just helping them like sell diesel aftermarket parts for trucks. Like I would if there was a 15% off sale, like I would make a banner for it. And then I got into doing social media, and this was like early Facebook.
I was going to say that's like only Facebook, really. Like the
Instagram did not exist yet until 2012, and Facebook existed. And so I started doing social media for them, and I grew their Facebook page from 0 to 10,000 followers in like a year and a half, which at the time was it was a wild west of Facebook pages. And
absolutely.
And that kind of grew my reputation on being able to help people run social media, because no one knew how to run social media. And I would say like I was just learning how to do it, and I just kind of marketed myself to say like, hey, I can help run social media. But there was like no classes for it, And then I went and worked at a place called OxyFresh. I did
shout out Melissa. We love you.
Oh yeah, and I was their marketing coordinator. Like I did some graphic design, but I helped manage their social media. I helped manage other people in the marketing department with like their workflow.
Okay,
which I was really good at. Just a joke. I'm awful at managing people and helping them with their workflw. It's
were you a project manager?
I was a project manager for like a year and a half.
I didn't know that.
And it was a really eye-opening job doing in-house marketing for OxyFresh. I loved working with Melissa, but we worked mostly with multi-level marketing companies, or we managed multi-level marketing companies, and working with those like people in that industry is
intense
and very intense. They want it yesterday. They want everything yesterday. And it was very fast, and it was hard for me to like keep up. And I ended up leaving that job, and I ended up working at doing in-house marketing for a little, it was called One Good Thread. They sold children's boutique clothing, and I helped do some marketing for them for about 8 months, and then I was like, I'm done with marketing.
So let me ask you, like a couple of those jobs, and actually I'm going to back up a little more, because you came out of school, it was design and web design, but pretty quickly then you ended up moving into more of the marketing space.
Right.
And was that by choice? Was that by necessity? How did that come together?
It was more by like necessity. They needed a marketing director at Alligator, and they were very much a startup. Like when I started there, it was 6 people. They hired me as a designer, and then I always kind of pride myself on being more of a marketer than a designer. Like I didn't go to school to be an amazing graphic designer. Like the people that I went to school with, like, or around the same time, if you're familiar with people in Spokane, are like Carly Fairbanks, Joel Barber of the Great P&W, Sebastian Lopez. He works for a place down in Portland doing stuff for like Google, Nike, all these amazing places. These people are like amazing graphic designers. Like they're award-winning graphic designers. And I was like, I'm never going to be one of them. But I have an eye for design. I know what good design is. And I was very good at being like art directing people. Like it was something that I've had a lot of talent for. And that's what I did when I got the Alligator Performance, when I went to OxyFresh, and then eventually when I ended up at the Woodshop, I did some of that. And I love design. I love looking at something and being like, why is it designed that way? How can we make it better? Why the hell is this their elite smoke shop sign on the side of this amazing old building? Like that is ugly. And like that's what I love to do when it came to design. I love telling people like what was good, what was bad, and how to make it better.
Sucks.
Yeah, but having a really good designer do it for you.
Well, so how much of your design background led to that, or is this just something you feel like you were always this bossy guy who's going to tell people what's up?
I just love learning about different ways of doing marketing. Like when I started at the Woodshop, I called myself the digital craftsman because when I started at the Woodshop, I was one of 3.
Yep.
And I did design, I did social media marketing.
Everybody did a little everything, right?
Little everything. Email marketing. I think at one time we had pitched doing some logo design and some web design, and I could do it all. Like I can do any piece of digital media that you need to do. I can do it okay. Like there are pieces of it.
You've got range.
Exactly.
You've got range in when it comes to marketing. And one of the things that I think is really important around that, and I think we should talk about is, especially in this town, there's a billion designers.
Oh my
We got
gosh.
3 schools putting kids out. They're all good schools. There's not that many design jobs.
It's the most coveted position, I feel like, in agencies and at firms because, I mean, who doesn't want to sit around all day and design art? It's so cool if you're creative. But I think that is a really good story to point out to people because you're still able to work with design and take your knowledge from college. But also, I think one thing that you have, and whether it's like entrepreneurial, that's such a, I cannot say that word. Entrepreneurial, no. You've got the spirit, but you've got the figure it out mentality. Like, I'll just get it done. Like, just tell me what needs to happen. We'll get it. We'll freaking figure it out.
Totally.
And not a lot of people have that, but it's like, okay, I have design experience, but I can figure out display ads. I can figure out Facebook.
Yeah.
I can figure this out. Like, give me a challenge. And that is something that people should really pay attention to.
I hope they do. And I know at one point, when we were having interns come through the Spokane Falls program, they would bring the professors in because they wanted to meet with us as we're doing internships with the students. And the beautiful thing about that was like, hey, I get to give you feedback, which is, yes, we do brands, but we don't sit around and do brands all day. I need someone who can design an ad. You know what I mean? And
Swanee, that needs to be talked about more. Like we do, like the amount of logos we do compared to ads, it's like 1 to 500.
gotta sell stuff, baby.
Yeah, man, that's design.
Yeah, like
truly,
everyone in design school who was a really good designer all wanted to do that, like do logos, do
brands, packaging.
Yeah.
Well, and to the point you made, if you're like the top of your class, the best of the best, you can put yourself in that position where maybe that's all you do. But like when we're hiring, and I mean, whether we're looking for a design or email or all this, everybody's got a design degree.
Oh my gosh.
And it's because they end up getting a marketing job.
Yeah. One of the problems I would say is like I don't think a lot of students look outside of the marketing realm. Like there's so many places that hire designers that aren't like, that's how I got my feet wet. Is like I didn't go work because I knew I wasn't going to work in an agency. Like I knew, because at the time in 2010 there was like maybe a half a dozen agencies in Spokane, and I wasn't going to go be a designer at one of them. It was like a dream of mine to work for an agency, but like that just wasn't happening. And so I looked outside the box and I found in-house. Like in-house marketing was definitely a good stepping stone for a lot of designers and a good way to like learn all aspects of design and with that marketing.
Yeah. Well, and you're applying the design to email campaigns, to display ads, to social posts. So you actually get to practice crafting those messages across mediums, which again is incredibly important.
Yeah.
If I were hiring a designer right now and they came to me and they're like, I don't have any experience doing, ads, but maybe I've done a logo in my portfolio, and then someone comes who has a degree who can show me way more print ads or postcards or billboards, or, it's like, they're going to be the one we hire.
Right. Yeah.
We need to start a petition. We need more newspaper ads coming out of the design programs. What's a newspaper? They don't even know, but I still want to see it.
Yeah, well, and just display ads in general. And, what's so funny, Tony, you said that literally every freaking person that applies for a job at the Woodshop, it seems like has a degree in design. And it's even to the point where we're like, I'm not going to interview you if you have a design degree and you're applying for this job, because I know that you just want your foot in the door and that you're going to leave in a few months when you realize, you don't want to be like a marketing coordinator.
Yeah.
You say that, and I interview them anyway, because I realize that they know, if there are folks who realize that there's other things they're looking for just because that's
some
what they
of
would.
them, but there's some
Yeah.
that come straight from design, and I'm like, no, this is an email job. Like, or anyhow, we could get really into the weeds on that one.
Totally.
Back to kind of your path here. You mentioned I kind of cut you off and backed us up, but you're talking about. I mean, it sounded like you kind of got burnt out on it.
Marketing?
Yeah.
Yep. In-house marketing. Yeah, I did. I didn't. You're working for entrepreneurs for one. And so when you're working for entrepreneurs, they are, as you know, they're driven. They, well, like, I wouldn't say like, and you don't really fit that box as much as like the people that I worked for, but it was, it's that hustle mentality. I hate hustle mentality. Like, I like hustling. I love working hard. I do not want to be like at beck and call on emails. Like that's what it was. Is like I was getting emails from people asking me where things were at, or like, why hasn't this been done yet? And everything that I did was always on a timeline. It's just like they wanted it, like I said, yesterday. And that gave me so much anxiety. And at that time I didn't even know, like, I had ADD, and so managing all that, emails, people's like workflows, and my own workflow, like, gave me so much anxiety. And then going to an even smaller in-house marketing, working with a married couple, like doing boutique clothing through, like, they were selling like on big commerce, like, it was just like it was very like soul sucking in terms of like I wasn't doing anything for myself. I was just helping other people kind of manage their stuff, and it wasn't life-giving at all. So like that was, and I'm very much a life-giving person. Like I want to go where like I find passion, and like that, and that is probably, definitely why I ended up moving into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So with that idea, being passionate about it, has that changed podcasting for you? Being that it was this thing you absolutely loved, and now you've made it your main thing.
Right. That's a great question. Spokast is very twofold. It's the business and it's the podcast. I love doing the podcast. I love doing the business side of things. And one of them kind of always suffers because I'm trying to focus on the other. And it's usually because I really want to make my podcast successful, or I really want to make other people's podcasts successful. And it hasn't diluted enough yet that it's soul sucking. Because I'm always challenging myself to find new clients, like, or help my clients in new ways.
Yeah.
And I'm in a field that is emerging. Like, it's still only 15 years old, about, like, maybe a little older than that, but like, it's still like, there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot to understand about podcasting and ways to pioneer it, really. Like, and I'm still in that realm of trying to pioneer parts of podcasting. Like, there's not many podcasting studios in the world. Like, and to be like one of the people that are kind of trying to figure it out, that's what is really makes me passionate about it.
Interesting. So early on, I mean, the passion for podcasting was you were doing your own. At first, you were doing one kind of like a side, just fun thing, right?
Yeah, well, it started.
I mean, the story should come out. Now, we should talk about the story. I just told this story.
Well, I mean, the story starts, like, for podcasting for me was I love fantasy football.
Yeah.
And my friend Adam Pitzler, he was like, we should make a podcast. And that, like, back in the day, people would always be like, we should start a podcast, but no one ever did. And so we started a podcast. We did it on our phones, which sounded like crap, and it was fantasy football. And there was, in that time, day and age, like 2015, there was hundreds of fantasy football podcasts. So many to listen to, like ESPN, all the sports people had a fantasy football podcast. So it was really hard to stick out in that. And so we did that for 2 years during football season. And then we started doing the Super 90s Brothers, which is a 90s nostalgia podcast, which we still do today, which is kind of off and on. Like we just actually had in 8 years of podcasting together, we had our first like meeting today about like what are like scheduling our programming for like the next 6 months.
Nice.
Like we actually we found time, like these are the movies and TV shows and video games we're going to do. And we're going to do it every 2 weeks. And we're going to put it on a schedule because it is like my most successful podcast.
Awesome.
But what like really got me like excited about podcasting is you sent me to and Andrea to a convention.
Yeah.
To Portland.
Portland.
It was a digital marketing convention.
Yeah.
For like a week.
Yeah, there was multiple breakout sessions on podcasting.
So many breakout sessions, and we split. It was fun. We'd split every day, maybe like 1 or 2. We'd be in them together. I will never forget you. I was just telling Tim about this. I'm like, yeah, he came out and he was like, that was the greatest session. Like, I want to really level up podcasting.
Yeah,
you were at that moment. You were jazzed.
I left there and I was like, I need to learn how to, because like at that time I was still doing remote podcasting, and this was 2019, and I was like, I need to learn how to podcast like in person. And Andrea had been like, you should start a podcast with Nate, our friend Nate, and I was like, I'll talk to Nate.
I made you guys go on a friend date.
And that's the origins of Spokast. Is like me and Nate met, and we were like, what kind of podcast should we do? And he's the one who came up with like, let's talk about people in Spokane. And he came up with the name Spokast. And so like, and then that's where like, when they got excited about it, I got really excited about it. And that's where we went from there. Like it was,
Spokast was born at the Peacock Lounge.
At the Peacock Lounge, yeah.
And then the first episode was recorded. The first few were in Nate's living room.
I think they're
in his studio apartment.
It was so much fun.
It was really fun.
I will say, like, of all the podcasts I've ever launched, like, we hit something there because like we were getting 100 listens in the first day on podcasts. Like we were really like, it was very successful. Like
I think that with Spokane though, here and just being the people that we are, you, me, and Nate are pretty active in the community.
Yeah.
And then if you in Spokane, no matter what you do, if you show up, like people will support you.
Absolutely.
As long as you're someone
loves
that supports
Spokane
them. Yeah,
too,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So,
there's just a lot of pride in the city and in the people that are working really hard to make it a better place. And so that was we're a powerful trio.
Yeah, it was I mean the unfortunate part of the whole Spokast part was COVID. Like it just kind of sucked all the air out of.
Yeah.
And then the other part of podcasting that sucked the air out of it was Speak Studios. And so but you know, at the same time, like I wouldn't be where I'm at today without going through all of that. And I don't know if we need to talk about all that on the podcast, but on this podcast, but yeah, I mean, like COVID just really kind of changed the course for everyone, I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, for all businesses and all people.
Well, and to come out of it at all is a big deal because a lot of things that shut down or went away didn't come back.
Right.
And to have to evolve through it, I think is huge. I want to go back to that conference though. Like, what was it? Because you already had this interest in podcasting. You were doing them with your bud and you listened to them, but what was it from the conference that got you so excited?
It's funny that I say this now because it's not at all my driving force behind what Spokast is, but it was money. Like,
this is the gold rush, baby.
You know, me and Abby always sit around and talk about like what's like the idea, like the startup idea that you like could make us millions, and at that time I was like, oh, podcasting. Like someone came up and they talked about how they developed this podcast for either it was a P&G brand, or it was like a big brand that they were making a podcast for them internally, but like it wasn't. It was more like it was the history of something, and then like it was like sponsored by, and like and they were like charging this group like $25,000 for like
I see
10 episodes. And I was like, holy cow. Like,
you got to get that P&G money, man.
yeah, I need to learn how to like podcast so I can help people make that type of money. And that's a little bit easier said than done.
So it was, I mean, you saw the beginning of something you loved, and the beginning of it really turning into something else and having financial opportunity as well. So,
well, shoot, I just kind of remembered too. I can't remember if you were still at the Woodshop or not then, but I remember Hillary from Spokane Conservation District calling me one night when I was at Rosar's in Brown's Edition, and I was like, "What's up, girl?" And she's like, "I know that you have Spokast, you're podcasting. I want a podcast." For Spokane Conservation District. And I was like, hell yeah. She goes, can I pick your brain? And I was like, honestly, you need to pick Brennon's brain. Because I'm like, I know enough, but I just kind of just talk on the microphone. Like, he knows the logistics. Yeah. And I remember connecting you, and that was was that your first?
That was my first podcast. Yeah, that was still at the Woodshop. It
was
Rocks to Roots. It started in like...
It's still going.
Yeah, it's still going. And they wanted to pivot from their symposium, their convention that they usually have. And it was because they couldn't have it. And
that was a COVID thing too, right?
That was a COVID thing too. Yeah.
And they get money to put on this event every year through grant money. Yeah. And so instead of doing it like a remote one, instead of doing like a virtual convention, which she had been to a lot of, and she's like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something different. She was like, why don't we make this into a podcast? And then that's where that began. And I think that's kind of like what piqued my interest of like, like getting that first like check to like make 10 episodes for them was like, I can actually make this into a business.
There's a thing here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so weird, COVID, how much COVID changed everything.
I literally just had that aha moment when Tony was talking about, when we were just talking about COVID and people who came out of it. And I'm like, man, it was a really big life-changing thing for you.
Yeah, it really was. Because, I mean, at that time, I was working at the Woodshop. I was, I didn't know really what to do next. And I was, I think it's no secret, I didn't love doing digital marketing. Yeah. And I didn't love like managing all these budgets. That it gave me so much anxiety having to manage so much. You know how it is.
It's stressful managing millions of dollars. Yes. Let's not like shy away from that. Yeah.
And then I saw the opportunity to go work for this other podcasting studio, which was like kind of my idea originally. And then they just popped up out of nowhere and like, we have a podcast studio. And then, I mean, they got me away from the Woodshop, like dangling fake things to me. Like, and I was like, this sounds great. But if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have met all the people that I've met and working with today. Like there's so many people from that working at that studio that I'm still working with today,
just in different capacities.
Yeah, exactly, and helping them still make their podcast. And it really gave me the opportunity to create what Spokast is today. After I was like, what do I do? Like I remember, like after I left Speak, and I was like, I had other clients that wanted to come with me, and I was like, what am I calling it? Like Digital Craftsman Productions. Like what's the name of it? And I was like, I can't call this anything but Spokast. There's like no better name for a podcasting company than Spokast. And I feel like even at the beginning of Spokast, I was like, we could do this with other people. Yeah. And you're like, I have no interest in doing that.
And May and I were like, no.
And like, and I even talked to you about trying to bring podcasts into the Woodshop, and you were like, I'm not that interested in it. And I understand why. Like, it is a hard. At the time in 2019,
it wasn't the time for it, so it was unfortunate for that. But
and even now too, it's kind of interesting because it's like we use podcasting as a marketing tool for ourselves, right? So like we're a client of yours, and we, Tony and I were talking, and we were really talking about how clients loved, reading our Slice and Sip, and we're always trying to find ways to showcase our work. We're horrible at showcasing our work, and really what it's like to work with the Woodshop and what those relationships relationships are like and those stories. And the podcast was the perfect way to do that. And then you look at Hillary with Rocks to Roots and Spokane Conservation District. They brought it in as a change of a tactic.
Yeah.
And so how are businesses, I mean, there's just so many ways businesses can use podcasts to now be a part of their content marketing strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, we all know about the marketing funnels and all the buckets that go in marketing buckets and funnels. And whenever someone, because like I would say like I specialize in business to business podcasting. Like that's my main clients, like people who want a podcast for their business to utilize to like showcase what they're doing or what's fun about their company, like all these different ways of like to promote yourself. Like, and I want to help, like, that's my best client. When I was planning for 2024, like my team at the Spokane co-op, the Spokane Workers Co-op asked me like, what is like your ideal client? I'm like, business to business, because they see the need and they want to utilize it as a marketing tool.
It's almost like digital networking too, in that sense, especially for B2B, right? Different guests and
100%
community.
There's definitely, and I do a podcasting. I'm sorry. I do a podcast for coaches, like it's called Next Level Good Vibes Only. They're life coaches,
awesome.
And they were like, how do we, like, they've been working with me for 4 years, and they're like, how do we get more listeners? And this is the first time them like kind of asking me, and I'm like, you got to promote. You got to promote it. You got to put it out there, and you got to find ways to get people to listen to it, because when you can get someone to listen to your podcast, and then you get like a diehard fan, then they might become a client, and like, and that's, and the more and more people that listen to your podcast, they'll share it with other people. The more people will find out about it. They'll talk about it. Like, I mean, that's why I do Spokast still, the podcast, is because I need to showcase how a podcast can be successful and how it can promote what you're doing as a company. And like, that is the idea. Like, I want to show, I want to showcase like people in Spokane doing the cool and amazing things, but I also want to show like, if you do it with promotion and do it with, a little bit of like word of mouth, and like you can get more clients. And
it's not like I tell people, it's not like, same with a website. You can't just build a website and expect people to come.
I got no traffic.
You can't just record a podcast and expect people to listen.
Exactly.
You still have to market it, friends.
Exactly.
So a couple weeks ago, I sent you this video, and it was kind of making fun of the fact that like everybody and their dog has a podcast now, right?
Yeah.
But so with that in mind, I mean, you'd love for everybody to have a podcast, but
right.
What should they be thinking about? Like, if a business owner is kind of listening to this and they're like, man, maybe this works for me, are there a couple key things that you think they should consider that help them make it a real thing and not just another bunch of dudes screaming into the void?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to have a point of view, a unique point of view when you are developing a podcast, because there are a lot of talking head podcasts out there that are just like, they don't serve a purpose. Like, I always want to answer a why in a podcast. Like in Spokast, I always like, why Spokane? Like, I want to answer like, why do you love living in Spokane? And it same goes for anyone that starts a podcast, is like, why do you want to start a podcast? And like, what questions are you going to answer to get people to listen to it? Like, every podcast I listen to has an end goal of like, I'm going to learn something from it and take something away. And I feel like every podcast needs that. They need a why. They need a reason for people to listen to, and like, they need to answer a question. And for some of my clients, it's just showcasing that they're a little bit different. Like, I do a podcast called The Secret Flesh with Lee Wick, and she is a esthetician that runs Vanity. She's gonna kill me because I always get her name wrong, but it's she does skincare. What's that called?
Esthetician.
She's an esthetician. She's an esthetician, but she does like, every time she does a history of like a beauty technique, like the history of it, like where it came from,
which is so cool.
And then she tells a ghost story at the end of it.
So she's got a format.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And yeah, and
unique.
So like you do need to have a format. Like there's so many the things that go into having a podcast. Like, but you need to have. It can't just be talking heads and like has no direction at all. Like you need to have a who, what, where, why, and when, and you need to have a format, and you need to have a show flow, and you need to have prepared questions, and you need to have all of these things to make an engaging conversation happen if you're going for an engaging conversation.
So do people come to you and do they ask for help with that?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I can.
So you're still doing a little bit of that marketing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's like why
I was like, wait.
So
that's still a thing.
The way I kind of promote Spokast is like I can help anyone create their podcast from inception to publication and everywhere in between. Like if you don't even have a great idea of what you want your podcast to be, like I can help create that vision and make it something that is fun and enjoyable to listen to, even if you don't know what that is. Because a lot of people want a podcast, but they don't know what they want a podcast about.
Yeah.
Or they need help deciphering like all their ideas into a show flow.
They got 1,000 ideas, and you can help them clarify.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done that for not a ton of podcasts, but I've done it for a handful of them. And I think probably the most well-known one I do that for is for the Perimeter with Adam Morrison, former Gonzaga basketball player. Like that was like I did every step of that from design of like the logo to
awesome
the publishing and I do the clips. I run all of that for them, and I can do that.
So fun.
I mean, ideally, I could do every piece of every step of a podcast for people if I could have 3 of me.
Yes.
And people wanted to sign up for that.
I was going to say, and they have the budget for it.
Exactly.
I do think, though, it's like if you're going to do it and you're going to commit to it, because it is hard. It is something, even Tony and I's calendars alone are always a little crunchy, as Jasmine would say. But then add in Brennan's calendar for the studio, and then add in client and guest calendars. And you're just like, holy smokes. It is a commitment. And it's definitely something that people should be like, hey, what am I, lay it out, take it seriously. It's not just like come in and record and leave.
It is serious. And I mean, you even mentioned that you and Adam sitting down and writing out a calendar.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, let's plan this thing. Let's take it serious. And I do think that's important. And I'm sure you talk to folks, but even the folks that I've talked to and then sent your way, it's like, all right, well, what's the purpose and what do you want to communicate? And, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to like feel so perfect and professional is kind of how I feel it, as long as you can set your direction and stick to it. I love the consistency of it.
Consistency, have your why, and then of course bring value, some sort of value.
Right.
And I think the other thing, obviously I'm biased, but I love podcasting. I think it's a really clever and like creative way to do content marketing because it's 3 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah.
It's audio, it's great social media content, it's great for Instagram, it's great for TikTok, and it's also fantastic for YouTube, video, the whole thing. And then also for shorts. And so it's like, if you're going to invest in a podcast, let's put another $5,000 behind a marketing camp, and run all these ads. You can really take it far, and you can reach so many more people, and more than likely your content's going to be very original.
Yeah.
And just it's just like if you can get the right person, a lot of opportunity there for businesses.
There's so many opportunities. Like you talk about micro content, like about like reels, and like I mean honestly, like that is the way a lot of podcasts are going. There's a lot of podcasts that I digest that I don't even listen to. I've never even listened to a full episode. I just watch their reels on
the
TikTok
little
stuff.
clips.
Yeah.
Because and that comes from a lot of like comedy style podcasts, but like everyone can have that. Like it is a way to create content for your business or for what you're trying to do in like very small bits. And there's really cool tools out here now that like can help you make it even break it out even further than that.
Easier to do it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you can even sell sponsorships, right? Like there's just so many ways to take one strategy for podcasting and then implement it 15 different ways.
Totally. Yeah.
You can really go far with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty limitless.
I would say so. And that, I think like when it goes back to marketing and like how much I enjoy marketing, like that's why like I kind of took marketing and podcasting and kind of merged them together for Spokast. And because I love marketing podcasts and helping people make their podcasts successful. Like, and the truth is like not everyone takes me up on it though. Like, and I would but the thing is like if you come in podcasts, like I give you the video, like you can do whatever you want with it.
We're going to start posting ours on YouTube.
Oh, you should. Yeah.
Literally the full thing.
Yeah. I mean, in the world of like exploratory, like content marketing, YouTube is the only place that people are finding podcasts. I mean, and TikTok. And because it's just, the algorithm.
Hold on.
The algorithms.
The freaking algorithms. So literally, I've had this conversation with Amanda and Lauren. Amanda knows a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Amanda Paulson, she has like.
Well, we had her we had Pretty F and Spooky on Spokane.
Yeah, she's
in Nate's house many years ago, kind of full circle.
That's so true.
Did we talk about?
I mean, I knew that.
But I knew that, well, obviously we're there. Anyhow, she knows a lot about TikTok and YouTube, being a content creator herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why are people watching podcasts on YouTube? And then like we went around this, we were doing this last night with Hillary. I had beers with Hillary last night, Spokane Conservation District. And we were all sitting around the table and everyone's like, yeah, my boyfriend, my husband, every guy I know watches podcasts on YouTube. They don't listen to them on Apple or Spotify.
I watched one the other day.
On YouTube?
Yeah, it was, well, and in this case, it was I was reading an article and it was like, hey, link to the podcast. And when I clicked it, it took me to the YouTube video of it.
Is it because people make money off of plays on YouTube?
You can monetize it a lot easier than TikTok and Instagram. And
I just thought of that. I was like, oh, they make money.
And people find things on Google. Like when you search anything on Google, Google's so good at promoting themselves and all their brands within it. Like if you search something that you're looking for, a video is like one of the first things that pops up. And so the more content that you have out there that's, and you hit those keywords like within like your descriptions and your titles, SEO. And you have a really good like. There's even AI tools for like creating YouTube cover art, like to
optimize it or something like that.
To optimize it, because like if you look at them, you look at the successful ones, they all have a certain formula. Yeah. I mean, YouTube is great. I'm putting all my podcasts on YouTube going forward. I don't probably do all the best practices for it, but it's learning. It's all learning,
and it's a little bit of a lengthy process. We were learning ourselves, right? We were going through, talking about the year and different things that we want to do for the Woodshop, and it was like, and I've never posted a video on YouTube, and I don't consume a lot of YouTube. I consume TikTok, and we were like, the description and the keywords and the tagging, and
Gotta
of
do
course,
it right.
obvi, because Google owns YouTube. But you're almost like doing a disservice if you're not posting it there now. Kind of hearing and doing my own like local research on asking people, where are you listening to podcasts? Like how, and really finding out so many, and specifically more men, which I find very interesting, which I always kind of knew YouTube was more of a male dominated platform like Reddit. But I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going like down a rabbit hole on that.
No, I love it. No, it's like utilizing YouTube as like a tool for podcasting is definitely like what's emerging as being like the go-to way of even getting your podcast now, because you get it all there now. You get the clips, you get the full video, like, and through Apple and Spotify, like you just go there for the audio medium. Like, but Spotify's rolled out a video option for them. Like if you can upload an MP4 and it will just show the video now as well. And so
but
video,
then do you have to film it in?
No, I mean, you can, it doesn't need to be in vertical.
Vertical?
It's all, you can do it in, it's all in horizontal. You can do it in horizontal. It just like turns.
Learning new things.
But yeah, like video's the way podcasting's definitely going. Cause like, I think 2 years ago, it was like static images with like visualizers and like having like the captions. And now it's like now it's last year it was Talking Heads, and like that was really getting people to listen. But now it's like Talking Heads with like B-roll.
Do you,
Like
do you think hot opinion here? Do you think TikTok influenced that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just like the video content, the
video
wave
content.
of video.
Everything's going video. Even all the social channels are too. I mean, because we made that switch with social, like Facebook and Instagram over the last few years. It's like things that used to work, like you were just saying, Brennan, with static, great, but ain't working anymore.
Yeah.
People
content.
want video. They want to see smiling faces. They want to see engaging content. Like there is going to be a day when we get there's going to be a day where like, and this happens like more in China like right now, but like in China, like everyone gets their news from like TikTok. Like it's where they go for all of their information. Like now TikTok, is that where you're getting it now?
Yeah, we work with Visit Spokane, and I was telling them, I'm like, listen, y'all, when I travel anywhere now, I go to TikTok and I search where to eat in Portland or where to stay in Bend or where to go in Vancouver, because content creators are showing me things that I can't find with like words, right? Like I don't want to read about a restaurant. Like what's the vibe? What's the inside look like? What does the food look like? And TikTok is where I'm getting that. News, absolutely. When we were down on the Oregon coast, I freaking got on there and I was like king tides and I'm like looking and seeing. It really has. I mean, I could talk about TikTok forever because I'm fascinated with it.
The last thing I'll say about TikTok is that like the algorithm is curated to you and not perfectly, but like that. And I think that's what is so unique about podcasting and like utilizing TikTok as a marketing tool, is because if you're a person looking for a certain type of business or service or whatever, like if you're putting it onto TikTok, and that's going to be a great way for the people who are looking for that type of content to find you. It's the best way. Like I mean, it's actually becoming its own search engine.
Exactly. It already is, man.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what, the girls, Lauren and Amanda, were even talking about as one of the big strategies for social media going into this year, is SEO rich captions and keep, I mean, it's
SEO everything.
SEO everything, which just makes sense, right? We're all getting smarter and searching more and doing more online, and all the more reason to be like, not cryptic and cute with your caption. Like, no, say what it is. So when someone's looking for it, they can find it.
So do we need to change the title of this podcast?
I mean, we need to change the title of the whole agency if that's the case.
No one's going to figure it out.
They're like, oh, where do you work? The Woodshop. And what's your podcast name? Between Coffee and Pizza. And they just kind of look at me and I'm like, oh, like we go into the Woodshop to like build and create. And then with marketing and then we like pizza and coffee. And I'm like always explaining, like, it's a great conversation topic. Yeah, not great. But
we haven't gotten many calls lately. I did change our profile online to say the Woodshop Marketing and Design, and so we don't get calls anymore for like, hey, can you router this board for me,
or a staircase for me?
I need someone to build a bookcase.
But I like it. I like our names.
Yeah,
clearly we came up with them.
No, we're not getting rid of them. But
no, not at all.
Speaking like with podcasting, before we get to the end of this. Do you think that this medium has what it takes to avoid kind of the boom and bust cycle that some of the other, like, not to compare it to like a social channel, like TikTok is having its moment right now, but do you think podcasting is going to have legs long term?
Well, I'll give you a term that you're very familiar with. It's adapt or die.
Yeah, baby.
In yes and no. Like I just read an article yesterday about how podcasting is dying. There's less and less podcasts being created, but that's an opportunity.
That doesn't sound like death to me.
And it's because there's so many people that came out of COVID who wanted to start a podcast and then just stopped making the podcast. And like this is not a real. This is a Brennan statistic, but
Brennan fact.
But I would assume the majority of podcasts that are within Spotify and Apple probably have an average of like 3 episodes per podcast, because there's so many podcasts out there that released 1 episode and never released another one. But like I think it is about adapting to the medium. Like if you're podcasting, like what are the trends that are happening in podcasting to get more listeners, to get your product out there to your consumers? And because podcasting is very much like you have to go with the trends in order to survive. Like if you don't stick to the trends and you try to like buck them, like there are podcasters that are out there that try to like say like, oh, you can just be yourself, do what you want to do. But like really, like if you're trying to make it right now, like you need to kind of do what everyone else is doing in order to get ahead, and you need to do it at a high level.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why Spokast exists, because there are people who go and buy a bunch of equipment to start podcasts, and then they're like, oh fuck, I gotta edit it. I have to now make clips for it. I have to do all these other pieces of it. I have to market it. And like when I can just take away the hassle of them buying the equipment and having to find a time to, well, not find a time, but
we just show up.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Like
here for 90 minutes.
You come in here, you record it, and then I give it to you.
Yep.
And like that's what Spokast is here to help people do. And like I said, I can help at any other point in between, and I will give you my honest feedback of how to better promote yourself and to make it successful.
Awesome. So this idea of statistically speaking, podcasts falling off. I mean, it says a lot when you mention like a boatload of them only have 3 episodes, right? So maybe that stat is.
I need to find the real stat, but like,
and like full circle, bringing it back around to 20 minutes ago, it's like it's a lot of work. It's a time commitment. You do have to show prep. I remember when we started Spokast, it was like, we don't need an agenda. We're just gonna get out and talk to people.
Yeah.
And then people would be like, you guys are disorganized. And I was like, thanks for the feedback. You're right, we are. And then it was like, no, we should have a show flow that we should stick to, and it definitely like improved it. And so it's not just, I think people were like, oh, I can get behind a microphone, I'm funny, I can talk.
Yeah.
And then it's like, cool. Like you can, but also like be ready to do that.
Exactly. No, and it's all about consistency. Like unless you're a person with like thousands of followers that are already there for you, like making your podcast successful is going to take time, and it's probably going to take at least 6 months to get more listeners and to get better engagement. It just takes a lot of time. And like what I always tell people is like, be annoying about it. Like what you think posting once is enough for your podcast. Like that means like only if you post it once, and like that's only one chance that someone's gonna be able to see it. And if they miss it that day and it didn't hit the algorithm, then they're gonna totally miss it. So if you constantly post on like Instagram or in your stories on TikTok, on YouTube, you run the gamut and put all your content everywhere, it's gonna be hard for people not to listen and digest your content.
You got to get that frequency, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. I have so many. Like, yeah, there's so much into podcasting that I could go on for hours about it, because like even podcasting in itself is a marketing funnel.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
it's
like, because like if the end goal is getting someone to listen to an episode, you have to give them all these other pieces to get all the way down to the bottom of that funnel to make them a listener. Like because if you just expect people to go from here to listening, you've already failed.
This is easy. I do it in my sleep.
Like, and if you expect your family to listen, like,
Nope.
No. Like my wife has not listened to an episode of Spokast in probably 2 years.
And we're okay with that.
I probably like said like, listen to this, and she's like, sure. Did you ever listen to it? No. Don't expect your
but
family.
There are some like
Jessica
very
doesn't
loyal
listen
listeners.
Jess doesn't listen to ours either. So
Jess, are you Belbin?
you could. No,
my
she's
goodness.
not hearing this. So no.
I'm going to send this to her. I always like to tell people, I'm like, you should listen to this episode because we talked about you.
Do you just say that to everyone, no matter what?
Like really, like I'm like, we talked about you. You came up. And then I know, like, if they're actually listening.
I started listening to a new podcast where, like, he's a former Spokaneite, Sean Widmer, and he does a really good job of engaging with his like community, and like he shouts out people if you send him comments and stuff like that, and like I've like started like sending him comments, and like he shouts me out. And I was like, I did not know how much I love hearing someone shout me out on a podcast, because like I don't listen to mini podcast that I produce because I've already heard it, but like doing it, like listening to one that like I know the person and I know that if I leave a comment, he's probably going to shout me out. Like, is like, it's a lot of fun. Like,
Yeah.
and
Well, he's
like,
an old radio guy, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Like,
Slim.
that's like
Love
birthday
that.
shout outs on the radio.
exactly. Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Love this. Okay, so wait, I want to try that. I absolutely, we should try that.
Try what?
I'm going to say that if you guys have a marketing topic that you want us to talk about, you should tell us.
Oh, we still didn't
Slide
set up the
into our
phone number.
DMs.
Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
what we're doing? DMs?
Phone number?
Yeah, remember we said last time they can call us with comments or feedback.
Well, within the program we use, Spotify for podcasters, there's an option where we can enable like a link and people can click on it and then leave a voicemail if you wanted to enable it.
Really?
So cool.
Yeah, I think
my
like
gosh.
like community engagement is like a really good is how you really want to get people to listen to your podcast. If there's an opportunity for them to get shouted out on a podcast, like it's
We're a monthly podcast though. Is that enough?
I mean, I would.
Is that like, are we doing it enough? Like for that type of
That's
engagement?
a good point. Maybe not. I mean, like I tell everyone, if you're wanting to start a podcast, like bi-monthly is where
Maybe
you
we
start.
should do bi-monthly.
But like, but I realize that that's a barrier to entry that a lot of people
Yeah.
just stop at. Like, oh, you're telling me you got to do this twice a month now? Like, well, no, you really should do it weekly.
Okay,
But-
so I'll just back up. You only need it once a month. Call
Yes.
Brennan, get signed up.
Yeah,
can
no,
take care of
you
everything.
could definitely do it. You could definitely have questions still. Like, and people, why not? Why not try it?
Awesome. Well, Brennan,
Oh, man, my wheels are turning.
I know so much to think about. Thanks for being here, even though you always are. I love. I put it in the notes. I wanted to make sure it came up because I think that you embody range when it comes to marketing, and that's something that I value immensely. And being able to hear about design and marketing and into audio, this whole journey and how it's all tied into marketing, I think is fantastic. But before we go,
Yeah.
the last slice.
Oh, yeah, the last slice.
Coffee, black or with cream?
Cream.
Sugar?
Sugar.
Cream and sugar?
Hot chocolate coffee.
Ooh.
Like white chocolate Americano is like what I drink. Like if I pour a cup of coffee, like when I was at the Woodshop, I don't even drink coffee anymore. But if I poured a cup of coffee, I would put like a lot of cream, a lot of half and half, and then then maybe a little sweetener, and then like sugar. Yeah, like there'd be multiple
right.
things in there.
Hot or iced?
Hot. Yeah.
Thin crust, deep dish.
Well, like we've talked about multiple times on the show, like I would love a great deep dish in Spokane. Apparently, there's a new place that has some. I forget what it's called, but like,
Oh my God. Heritage is opening a deep dish pizza spot.
oh really?
I don't know if that's like
Your downstairs neighbors?
downstairs neighbors.
Oh wow!
It was in the news.
where.
Oh, that's
I
what
can't remember.
that's what I heard
Podcast.
about.
That's,
okay,
Yeah.
great. I was, but
Sorry.
I will say, I prefer like a is a what do they call it? A cookie crust, like a
Thin crust.
Thin crust. I guess that's like
Cracker crust.
Cracker crust. Thank you. Flying goat. There's like I love flying goat pizza.
Pineapple on pizza?
Yes,
Fried eggs on pizza.
sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just
I've
medium?
had it before. Yeah, I like eggs on pizza.
Okay, so yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, sure means yes.
That was a meh. Currently, what's your favorite podcast to produce?
Oh man.
Don't worry about her eyes, her judgy eyes.
Man, I have so many that I love producing.
You can't ask him to pick out his
None of the other podcasts listen to us.
fair. Well, they might to this one because Brennan's the guest.
I love producing Spokast, the podcast.
there you go.
Like it's my, it's what I love doing. But I will always. It's always a hot topic of conversation, especially in Spokane. If I can talk about Adam Morrison podcast because it's
for sure
it's the most successful of all of them.
Currently, what's your favorite podcast to listen to?
The Wizard and the Bruiser. It's like a historical, like not historical, but it's like it takes like a topic. Like they just did Game Boy versus Game Gear, and they kind of dive into like the history of like, how both handhelds started, and then like and how they competed against each other, and like, but they take all different types of pop culture topics and kind of dive deep and like tell you like the full history of it. And I love that. And I really love the Sean Woodward podcast. It comes out 3 times a week, and they're like
3 times a week,
but they're 15 minutes long, and it's just
that's nice.
Perfect for drive time for me. And like, and I get shouted out every once in a while. and he
well, he's getting shout out on ours. So.
Yeah.
right.
Would you rather give up pizza or coffee?
Coffee. I'm surprised we haven't not made it through this conversation without even talking about.
We talked about it on the last one, didn't we?
The pizza
I was
challenge.
thinking about
did
that
we?
this morning.
It's okay.
The
This
pizza
was a good
challenge.
conversation. Yeah, Brennan and I got fat eating a bunch of pizza, and we regretted every moment of it, but we still love pizza.
That's kind of, how the 3 of us came together.
You gave me when I
gave you
won the
the
competition,
trophy.
you gave me a little pin, which I somewhere in a box.
So if you want to hear that story, you got to go back to episode.
With Cashmere, with Ruth and Heather.
Oh, was that it?
I think
last?
so.
Okay.
I feel like it.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
Maybe it's in that one. Maybe it's in another. Just
Like,
listen to all of them.
I have one for you. Apple or Spotify?
Oh, Spotify.
Really?
For podcasting, because they have video,
Okay.
they have you can comment and like on every episode they have you can do polls on Spotify.
Cool.
There's a lot of things within Spotify as a podcasting platform that like you can do so much and like add to your podcast. And
Sweet.
Whenever I put a link out, like I always push them to Spotify. Apple Podcasts is there, it exists, but like it's probably like, but those make up literally like 96% of all listeners, and now YouTube.
But really YouTube, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Brennan,
Yeah.
thanks for being with us on
Thanks,
this
B.
side of the
This side
camera.
of the
That was
wall.
fun.
Yeah, that was really fun.
I love like being a part of conversations and not like having to lead them. Like it really is like, it is a treat to be able to like be on a podcast and not like have to like have my like, I usually like you have my laptop in front of me. I'm like, what do I like?
Keep it
moving, all that stuff.
Like, and that's really great for my ADD. Like when I'm like trying to like read notes and like engage. Like, and I always like preface. I'm like, I'm going to be looking at my computer screen every once in a while. Like, so don't take offense that I'm not always like staring right at you. So I never
a
took
good point.
offense. So.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Sweet.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, V.